Yes, hello. Welcome to this press conference. My name is Andri Snær Magnason, and we and Björk, we will talk about some important issues in this conference. We're from a project that is called Protect the Park, which is kind of about creating a beautiful proper national park in the central highlands of Iceland, which most of you might believe is a national park, but it is actually not, and it is quite threatened by lots of development schemes. But we will start with a small manifesto.
Hello, welcome. My name is Björk. Icelanders have a deadline. For 11 more days, they can go online and protest an overhead high-voltage energy line that will be built across the whole island. Iceland has now the largest untouched nature in Europe. This would end that. The government has plans to build over 50 dams and power plants in this area and to start next year. This could end Iceland's wilderness in few years. We propose to start a national park in our highlands. Surveys already prove that the majority of Icelanders agree. We ask the world to support us against our government. Help us protect our wilderness.
Thank you. So I come here as the guy in the suit with the facts. Normally I do poetry. I don't have a mask, but James is making it for me. But basically we are kind of debunking some elf myths from Iceland. And if you were following the news, then you might have seen headlines like this. This is from a very respectable news agency. This is from Reuters about the UK being powered by Icelandic volcanoes. You know, it sounds like sci-fi. It sounds really cool. It sounds possible. You know, it sounds like science. But actually, it's just a myth, just like elves and trolls and well, my grandmother has seen a fairy, but I couldn't like export it to the UK. It's more something that is in our soul and in our mind. And it's quite dangerous, as we saw in the year 2008, when businessmen and politicians start fantasizing together. That's something that artists should be doing, but when businessmen start doing that, things can go quite wrong. So this, for example, about Iceland being able to power the UK, doesn't make any sense if you look at the figures, because if you would dam every river in Iceland, which means every single natural wonder in Iceland, every waterfall, everything, and you could get like, this is a scary number, this is 30 terawatt hours a year. This is, I guess you're all very much into terawatt hours as music journalists. But if we would dam every river in Iceland, we could possibly get 10% of what the UK uses. But of course, we also need some energy ourselves. In Iceland, we have been fighting kind of an energy hype. And in the year 2006, it seemed like they were going to sell most of the energy of Iceland to 5 aluminum smelters. And to take all the power in the east and sell it to Alcoa, they were going to take all the power in the north, sell it to Alcoa. And each smelter uses energy like 1 million people. So in Iceland, when we see headlines like this, Iceland has lots of volcano power, free and environmentally friendly, we get a bit scared. Because we've seen the hype before, and we've seen the damage that has to be done to harness all this energy. So basically, if we look at the plans like they look today, we have what one of the nature organizations called the Heart of Iceland, which is a the beautiful central highlands of Iceland. And in the last 10, 20 years, we've been fighting to preserve the natural environment of Iceland. This, for example, is Þjórsárver. This is the nesting place of pink-footed geese in Iceland, one of the greatest nesting places in the world. This has been a debate for 40 years of preserving this area, where they were proposing a dam that would flood the area, almost destroy the pink-footed geese stock of the world, and sell the energy that would supply like 1/5 of the energy that could power a aluminum smelter. But one aluminum smelter uses energy like 1 million people. So this is an area that we have saved, which is good. And this is now properly protected in a national park. This is Langisjór. This is a very beautiful lake of green moss, black lava, and water. It's very beautiful. It's like God only had 3 elements to create something beautiful: green moss, black lava, and water. And this is one of the most kind of magical places in Iceland. And this is a place that we did manage to save. But there are other places that we have not saved, and that we did lose. But we have in the nature organizations, this is again from Langisjór, we have been taking people on walks, like just normal people on walks, to show them the beauty, because people think you need to be like a Everest Gore-Tex crazy guy to experience the beauty of Iceland. But actually it is accessible to normal people. And within a national park, we really believe that we can inspire many more. And it can take lots of people, just if it's done properly. But we lost to Alcoa really beautiful areas, like waterfalls, great waterfalls in the east, one of the greatest lake in eastern Iceland, and many of the greatest waterfalls and roaring rivers in the east that we lost to energy development. So we really believe that we might have already gone too far. So while they are talking about the cable to the UK, they're still talking about 3 huge energy plants and 2 aluminum smelters. So this is why we're kind of worried if the world thinks they're getting volcano energy from Iceland, untouched to any place or any heritage or any natural consequences. So we have formed this organization that is called Protect the Park, Gætum Garðsins,
Yep.
Where we are trying to combine the forces of Icelandic organizations and the main ones, which are called Landvernd and NSE. One of them has this petition here that is called heartoficeland.org. What is happening now, just in the very next future, is that we have this area in the Central Highlands, and they are proposing now a power line that would kind of cut this huge wilderness in 2 pieces, and then they have projects kind of all the way through the Central Highlands. And we believe, because Iceland has already harnessed 10 times more energy than the nation consumes. That is, 90% of the energy in Iceland already goes to heavy industry. So if we would have a cable, the discussion is not about volcanoes. It is how many aluminum smelters we will close down to sell that energy through the cable. Because the nature of Iceland cannot provide all this energy that is being promised. So, so this is why we have put some efforts into having concerts, press releases. We've gone to boring meetings and gone through all sorts of papers and stuff to know this thoroughly, because it's really strange when artists suddenly have the role of telling people what engineers should be telling you. So the energy industry in Iceland is kind of a mess. They believe in elves, or elf energy, that they can sell endlessly to anybody. But actually we live in a real place with real waterfalls, with real wilderness, and we really believe that it would be valuable and more valuable and a greater export to the nations of the world to preserve this and give people a chance to experience and enjoy and be inspired. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I would, before we do the Q&A thing, we managed to scribble on the wall here with some red pens. We just started today a Facebook location where we would like, if people want to support us, they could like us. It's facebook.com Gætum Garðsins. And already, if you want to support preservation of this area, there is already a place where you can sign in. Already with 70,000 foreigners have signed there on heartoficeland.org. And right now, this is to the Icelandic people. I'll say it in English still. There is now a petition online where you can protest this energy line. We have 11 more days, and it's on skipulag@skipulag.is. Okay, so maybe you want to ask some questions?
What about the current state of Iceland is making you the most optimistic?
Iceland making
you the most optimistic about your country's future in the nature you're preserving?
Yeah, I still think Iceland is a magic place. It's incredible. What's so amazing about it is the proportions are pretty special. And it's sort of a tiny island with majority of it being just a vast wilderness. And because there's only 330,000 people who live here, there's like almost no infrastructure. So you can get things done here so easily. Like if you want to do like green stuff, or you want to have a music festival, the whole just nation comes along and joins in. But what's also scary is we can also have things happening like when the bank crash happened, or if the government that's now in power has only been in power for 2 years. And it's very extreme. It just basically immediately put up plans to harness more than 80 areas on this island. And it's down to 54 now, I think. And they could literally do it in the next 5 years if they're not stopped. The danger is that even though surveys say that 80% of Icelanders, they want this area untouched, these people are in power for 2 more years, and they could literally get this done. They have now put the cream of like the best Iceland scientists, biologists, forced them into this evaluation of these areas, which is like the craziest, most detailed multiple choice test I've ever seen. And they are trying to for example, where are the geese, where are the salmon eggs, like trying to do some evaluations now, but they've been put on like express. They have to answer it before February, which is like impossible. And then even whatever conclusions they come to, if these areas are harnessable or not, it is not by law. It's basically would just form as an advice to the people in power. They could still go ahead and harness these 54 areas, and they would want to do it really quickly before they go out of power. So they have 2 more years. So the only thing we've got now, we don't really have we can't really go the legal route. The only way we can do is tell the world about it and get the world to pressure the people in power and to look at their conscience. With things like this conference in Paris coming up at the end of this month, most of the world's nations are actually trying to withdraw these kind of activities. And we feel the Iceland's government should be thinking along similar lines instead of adding more factories.
The petition that you talked about is only for Icelandic people, so the only way to actually put this into the national, international level that you're looking for is via these channels, correct?
Well, right now, we are going to try to collect together people on our Facebook, and somehow we can. This is just the beginning. We are all doing this as volunteers and doing this on our free time. And like Andri said, we're artists pretending we're like really good at statistics and really at megawatts and stuff.
So you're putting together organizations that will then get proactive, different organization in Iceland.
So what we did last year was we had this big concert in Harpan in the main hall with Patti Smith, with Darren Aronofsky. He gave, because he was filming Noah here, so he was giving kind of the premiere revenue of his film. We had Patti Smith, Lykke Li, Björk, Monsters and Men, and we had a great crowd, a great outcome. We had like 35 million Icelandic crowns, so we could hire staff and we could kind of thoroughly start kind of talking to people, getting together the forces that are needed to evaluate, and all this legal process, all this bureaucracy that is needed to create the national park. So basically that has been going quite well. We feel that people understand that this is actually environmentally and economically viable for Icelanders, and it would be a short-term game of a boom when you have mega construction going on, but we have, so basically we have been on this role of, let's have a press conference and then we have to go to work. So finally we could hire staff, and here's some of our staff from Gætum Garðsins, and we could hire staff because lots of these things actually happen, through bureaucracy, through law, through this slow process of doing things, and we are kind of now creating this dream, and then we have to visualize it, we have to put it on maps, and we need cartographers because if you put the wrong spot on a map, a farmer will become really angry because he says, you just took our land and made a national park. So, we have to, we don't want to kind of step over anybody, because I think if we really approach people in the right way, then people understand that this is also creating lots of economic activity in rural areas. So even the worst place to farm might be the best place to access the Highland Park. So that would make it viable for the worst farm in a place to become the best farm as closest to the park. So with staff of rangers and proper protection, because of the tourist boom also, we need to kind of, the Wild West period of Iceland kind of can't go endlessly.
So we're basically trying to pull in a business plan for a national park. It's like very DIY. And try to define this wilderness and to make sure that this area that's is room for everyone, like tourists and the farmers and the Icelanders, but it still keeps untouched. But what we're going to try to do on Facebook is slowly start to collect people that support us from around the world, and then slowly in the next months or years we will inform people how they can support us, and if they want to assist us in whatever ways it can. I think we still have to improvise a little bit in what ways. We're still sort of making it up as we go. But right now, just our support and just to say that you agree with us means a lot. And it's often in a small country like Iceland that if you get foreigners supporting our views, it kind of mirrors back here to the people in power, and they listen to the crazy artists of their own island.
And also one of the problems is like a scheme like this, cutting the highlands in half. It's never the value of the wilderness is never valued at anything. It's just wasteland on the engineering maps. It's the cheapest way over. But the concept of an untouched wilderness is never weighed against the project. So that's why we have to put lots of energy into, also because of the remoteness of the Icelandic wilderness, places where you could be alone, 10 years ago, and nobody would know even the name of the name of the place. Suddenly we kind of have to almost market Iceland's nature to Icelanders, because when they have proposed the plan of damming an area and flooding it or blasting it or paving it, the fact of untouched, that is a place where almost nobody has stepped his foot, has been an argument for, it's so unpopular. This is a very unpopular place, there's nobody there. And nobody even knows its name. So what value does an unpopular place have? So kind of the magic and the myth and the depth of Icelandic nature, to be able to go to some place that nobody has been to, and it looks like the greatest tourist destination somewhere in the world, but you're alone there with a private show of a roaring waterfall. That is put in the context of unpopular, unutilized, as nothingness. So we're trying to fight this nothingness with somethingness. I'm not sure this is English, but...
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. The Reuters headline said Britain and Iceland are reviving the volcano project. So can you walk through the last time this project was discussed and how far it got then, if Icelanders protested that kind of law?
Well, this is a very old project, and this is a very old idea, and it derives from the 80s, and then it was actually called LSD, langstærsti draumurinn, or the far biggest dream, and that project was actually about, I could show you a map, I'm very professional here. LSD was actually about taking all these rivers here in the eastern part of Iceland, diverting them into one single lake. It's like a very Soviet-like idea. So they would take the great rivers, if you know Dettifoss in northern Iceland, which is Europe's greatest waterfall. They were going to take that river, divert it to the east, take the two rivers there, and then they were going to build the submarine cable to the UK. And that was called LSD. And it would have totally destroyed so much. It's almost unthinkable of the damage this would have made in the 80s. Because the rivers actually, what people don't know is a glacial river, it feeds cod. That is, the spring floods of a glacial river creates the kind of excellent situation for the spawning grounds of cod. So actually, the deeper connection of glaciers and cod is something that an engineer that is just going to build a dam is never thinking of. So the deep ecology of these rivers is actually not only in the watching them and the beauty of them, but they also have a kind of deep ecological meaning. So this cable, the only way I would see the cable to be possible would to close down 2 or 3 smelters. There's not more nature available for 4 silica factories and a cable. So what we're kind of saying is this grand innocence of volcano power. We don't want to see nonsense spread around the world from Iceland. We tell elf stories, tell cute things, but when it comes to engineering, use facts and boring stuff.
Hi, you said that you have managed to, some areas have been saved in the east. So with the big campaign that ran last year, did you see some tangible results? Did you feel that it was heard, and was there some acknowledgement in Alþingi?
I think everybody's been doing this as volunteers. I mean, I personally been doing it on and off, mostly on, for 7-10 years now. And we always thought like money is ugly, whatever. And last concert a year and a half ago, we first time actually asked people to donate. And sometimes it's like, bullshit, that old money talks, because we actually, the money that came in, we could actually hire staff, like what Andri was saying. So that was the first time. We also asked people to become members of the two nature conservation societies that are in Iceland, and for those two societies to work together. And I think this has worked really well. And also just becoming a member in Iceland, you have to pay like a monthly fee. So that like, I don't know, like tripled or like was a lot more after that concert. So we would like to do something similar now, which we're kind of seeing, because you can sort of drop everything and then just become a volunteer, but then we all have to go back to our normal jobs. So the best thing is actually to somehow to get money to hire people, So what we were actually dreaming of, I don't know if to say it here, but was to make like a t-shirt or something and put it on our Facebook internationally, and then with the money that would come in from that, we could go into the legal battle and hire lawyers. And I think, unfortunately, that is the only way that actually sort of works.
Yeah, sometimes we get like, what do you call it, cynical, or we feel like nothing has happened and everything is going wrong. But I think we have pushed the machine out of some very valuable areas. So areas that would have been plundered with a half-year notice, like 3 years ago, the machine has kind of moved out and is even unwilling to go in there, because the locals are also seeing suddenly they've changed their barn into a guest house, and they feel like these places are actually benefiting them as nature, but also we have to convince kind of engineers to come to mind that it is okay to live in a country that has already harnessed 10 times more energy than the nation itself uses. They can be proud of that. They have the biggest dam in Europe. They can be proud of that. Even the engineers have things they can be proud of, but they also have to kind of understand that you also have to have something like this, and they have to just come to terms with living in an island with some free waterfalls, and it is okay, and they don't have to be unhappy about that. So we have pushed the machine out of some areas, but when you have the gravity of $1 billion project, instant project, when you have a slight curb in the economy, like we know the economy goes up and down. In Iceland, the waves are more like the North Atlantic, but we go up and down, and the real strength would be also if we make a national park, our politicians won't be tempted in the first quarter of the downturn. Okay, we have to freak out and make $1 billion project and destroy something. So because that is the easiest way to kind of boost ourselves out of a crisis.
I think maybe also there are two ways where most the positive things have come is information. I think the average Icelander who walks the streets maybe doesn't know all these facts or what's going on, because the people who want to harness these places, they keep really secret and they kind of plan behind curtains, and then when you get the information about the next project, they try to make it in a way that it's impossible for the average Icelanders to react. So sometimes the biggest weapon we've had is basically information, and just to keep, to inform people. And also another thing, I think the reason why I've continued to stand up and speak is not because I love the attention. I actually would much rather be at home writing songs, but I think because I have this platform, and I know the majority, 80% of Icelanders, they want this area to be untouched, and I feel like I'm a spokesperson for these people. It's not like I'm forcing my views on Icelanders. It's more like I get a platform and I can say what 80% of Icelanders would say if they had the chance.
What's your biggest concern, not just for Iceland, but globally with ecology? What's your greatest fears for the future of the world? like questions and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, life's short, you know. I mean, I have decided to put all my energy into Iceland, and all the time I can spare away from music making, I have put into this battle. I think that's part of the bigger picture. I think I can be more valuable here in Iceland and get more done, not just preach, but actually change things, than if I would start to fly around the world and fight global warming. So I think it's a choice with each person. This is part of that. It is one puzzle in that. And I think if we manage to make this into a national park and keep it that way, that's going to be the biggest thing I could do in my lifetime, and I could tell my grandchildren, you know, I got something done, and that's what I did, you know. But full support on all the people in Paris under this month. I think it's extremely important, a big step for the world.
Yeah, the greatest fear, of course, is the unprecedented change that we're going through. That we are. I could take a small example because I have my. I threw in some slides, and they actually are here. So these are my grandparents, for example, and this is their honeymoon, and it was a 4-week glacial trip. They were kind of the generation that kind of were the first explorers into the interior of Iceland, because it's not farming land, it's not grazing land, kind of nobody was there. And so in the 1956 they took this glacial trip, a 4-week honeymoon on Vatnajökull Glacier, Europe's biggest glacier, and it was a very dramatic trip, and they were under snow for 4 days. It was their week of love. I asked my father if they weren't cold, and he said, "Cold, we were just married." So because they were measuring the glaciers, we can put this against kind of evaluation of global warming, you know, how we expect the temperatures to change the glaciers. And we can see that the two kind of smaller glaciers in the central highlands, they will vanish within the year 2120. And this is nature leaving geological speed to human speed. And 2120 sounds like science fiction to us. But just as I could call my grandmother, I could even have invited her to this press conference. I can call her now, and I know her as a grown man, not just as a baby. If I will know my grandchild as well as I know my grandmother, I will know somebody that is still alive in the year 2120. So I could ask my grandmother to write a secret message for me in a sealed envelope. I could give it to my grandchild as a 40-year-old birthday present, and I will ask this person that I will know and love to read this letter in the year 2120. But strangely, our concept of the future stopped in the year 2000. That was future. And we haven't updated future since then. So the interesting thing that scares me, you were asking what scares us, is that even though scientists are doing this, and we know that we have exceeded the limit, we have gone too far, we are disrupting all sorts of natural cycles, we still have industries that have something like this. This is the long-term growth of the aluminum industry, for example. So in 2005, they had reached 30 million tons in a 100-year phase of industrialization. And where do you go when you know that phase has gone too far? Yeah, let's double in 15 years what we did in 100 years. So this is so common all around the world, where we know the warning signs, and where do you go after the warning sign? You just go full force and double what you've done. That's my fear.
Any more questions?
process for setting up the national park? Like, do you have to get the government to set it up, or is there an external process? How long does it take to create a national park?
We do it over the weekend now.
So it's very quick if they agree to it.
But about 80% of the Icelandic nation wants this to stop. But the monument and politicians, which get their money, they are pushing forward. And this 80% of the nation is in organizations, just like somebody asked before. And they want their organization to do something about it. And they are prepared to do something about it. And we have election in Iceland after 1.5 years. And we are hoping that we can change that things at that time. We have to follow laws, although they don't do it, the politicians, and our government doesn't follow laws. Because if some law is against them, they just change the law tomorrow. But they can do it, and they are doing it. And they are just, the nation, we just like duck, we are pushing down something down our throat that we don't want to. But we want to do something about it, and we are also asking you to take this message with you out there, because our Prime Minister is talking nonsense, just like Andri said, and also our President in the foreign media. They're saying things that, if you just think about it, so they're talking about that we can save Britain's electricity. There's so much nonsense, because if we put all our electricity over to Britain, it's about 1/3 of London or something like that we can support. This is so much stupidity to talk like that. And just like Andri said, that we want our president and our prime minister to talk some sense and not promising some things that don't go.
What's also really important in terms of establishing a national park in the Highlands is that we have 21 municipalities that have planning powers in the Highlands. So of course their voice and view is really important, and a dialogue with them, if their views are important for the establishment of that.
What actually happened in 11 days? You mentioned 11 days as a deadline.
That is the deadline for this power line here. They're pressing very hard to build this power line that would cut the Central Highlands in half, and that is kind of a very defining moment. People are saying that they could have an underground cable, just like you can. They're very enthusiastic. They say they can make a cable 1,200 kilometers under the sea, which is the longest in the world. So they're very ambitious when it comes to the underground cable, but when it comes to not kind of putting a forest of power lines through the greatest wilderness, then it becomes very technically impossible, which is not. So it's also just the aesthetic, the symbolic act of cutting it in half, making it into two areas, fragmenting it, salami slicing the highlands, until maybe in 20 years we will think, oh, we had a chance there at some defining moment where this was still all intact and we didn't value it at anything. We didn't consider the concept of it we didn't put any effort into trying to understand what is the value of still having that in the beginning of the 21st century.
So in 11 days there's a governmental vote or something?
Yeah, so basically it's the planning process. It's the planning procedure, and where you can, it's bureaucracy. so you can send your views through the planning process. That would all the documents might be in Icelandic, so you might have to learn Icelandic too in 11 days. So.
But after 11 days, something can still be done, right? People can still, it can still be stopped.
Okay. Yeah, so.
Ja, viltu fá mikrofón kannski? Já. Whoops.
So like Andri mentioned, there is this plan of building this overhead power line. Now it's the time that organizations and individuals and others can send their arguments for why this should not be built or to be built. So that's the 11 days that we have. After that, they will take that into account or not. So the 11 days are concerning that process, basically.
And after that, the politician will say, what can you do? The nation has decided that we should do this because nobody protested and stopped us. I'm sorry, but we have to do what the nation said. And they are just turning the opinions on upside down, just like they do almost every day.
But I think overall it's an ongoing thing. I mean, they will, even though we win this thing in 11 days, that's not going to be the final thing. I think it's a baby stepping thing, and it's like a long, it's a marathon thing.
Yeah.
And we're in it for the long haul for sure. But this is.
It's Iron Man.
It's so I think it's just one of many steps to make the public and the world aware and inform them that if they want to support us like this is where they could and I think it will be very valuable and have a lot of weight, the world's opinion on this, that it doesn't just happen in silence. Yeah.
Thank you.
Dennis?